The Patek Philippe reference 2526 Calatrava might just be the most important automatic winding watch the brand ever made, which is an incredibly bold claim, but one that I think we might be able to convince you of. Today we're going to take a closer look at this milestone reference for the brand through the guise of two flawless examples that we have in the office. In 1931, Rolex released the Oyster Perpetual, which is regarded as the first automatic winding watch, and they had a 20-year patent on the central winding rotor, which gave other brands 20 years to put together their response to the new automatic winding convention. Patek Philippe took full advantage of that time, and when in 1953 they released the caliber 12600 AT, their first automatic winding movement, it truly blew away anything that Rolex could have anticipated. This movement was first outfitted in the reference 2526, which debuted in 1953, the same year that the movement was released. And this watch reference is probably the most significant automatic watch that Patek ever made. So we're going to take a look at some of the details that made this watch so important, starting with, of course, the movement. The caliber 12600 AT was significant both on the aesthetic side and on the spec side. Starting with the specs, this watch was rated to be accurate to plus minus 1 second per day, which is a standard that many watches struggle to achieve even in a modern context. And when you take into account the fact that this watch was released in the 1950s, that's unbelievably impressive. And the way this was achieved was through two primary innovations. Firstly, the Gyromax balance, which was one of the things that Patek was most proud of, which had debuted a couple of years earlier. Gyromax balance places these sort of adjustable screws and weights on the balance wheel, which allows the watchmaker to sort of fine-tune the adjustment of the Gyromax balance. On the other side of the spectrum, we also had a swan's neck regulator, which also allows for fine-tuning and adjusting of the movement to dial in the accuracy to a level that would actually match the specification of plus minus 1 second a day. To sort of counterbalance the incredible mechanical sophistication of the movement, it was also a completely brilliant looking movement. It had this beautiful central winding rotor with a barleycorn sort of guilloche finish, which was affixed, and it sort of blew out of the water anything that was available at the time. And so when Patek Philippe answered with the 12600 AT, they created a watch movement that is regarded by many watchmakers to be perhaps the greatest automatic movement to this day, which again is unbelievably significant considering that this watch was released, over 70 years ago. As we sort of look at the other elements of the 2526, we're going to take a look at the proportions and the case profile. So this watch was 36 millimeters. And to just give some context, the reference 96, which was sort of the milestone Patek Philippe Calatrava, was only 31.5 millimeters. So this watch was incredibly contemporary for its time. It had a sort of sporty appeal to it, a much broader wrist presence than any of the other Calatravas that were out there at the time, and also had a more rounded and flowing case profile. Whereas, again, the 96 and the 570 and other important references had more sheer lugs. This watch had a sort of flowing case profile that was unlike anything that was out there at the time. It has this sort of swollen, almost like pebble-style feel, which gives it a flowing, elegant profile, but one that wears in a sporty way on the wrist. And I think that's part of what makes collectors so passionate about this watch in a modern context, is that it still wears incredibly well, even in 2025. Details continue to the dial itself, which was crafted from enamel. Now, enameling as a process is incredibly complicated for manufacturing. The vast majority of enamel dials are discarded during the manufacture process. Enamel is almost like glass. It's fire-baked at incredibly high temperatures, and as a result, imperfections often form in the dial surface. And that's part of the reason that these get discarded so often. Initially, Patek wanted to make an indestructible dial that would sort of be able to weather all the elements, and history has shown that that wasn't exactly the case. And trying to find a clean 2526 with an enamel dial that doesn't have cracks is a tall order. And that's why it's so significant that we have two completely flawless 2526s. It's a beautiful texture. It has almost a three-dimensional quality to it with this sort of creamy hue to it. And enamel sort of has a warmth next to yellow or rose gold that is kind of unlike anything else on the market. And so it has this beautiful, soft appearance on the wrist, which I think is what made collectors so passionate about it. Moving on to the crown, this is one of the telltale giveaways that Patek Philippe gave on the 2526, that there was something special inside the case. It has a double-signed P crown, which was something that only was outfitted on the 12600 AT. This was sort of Patek Philippe's proud representation that they outfitted this watch with something unbelievably significant on the inside. And so as we sort of take a step back and look at this watch from a 6-foot view, I think we sort of see why this watch is so significant and collectible in a modern context. It was way ahead of its time in terms of mechanical achievement on the movement side. It was large for its time in sizing. It had a beautiful, flawless dial that was both elegant and incredibly difficult to manufacture. And it created a sort of sporty appeal that made the Calatrava something that could be worn in a variety of contexts. And when we look at watches from this era as collectors, these are the types of features we're looking for. We're looking for something that wasn't made in a mass-produced context, something that was made that is still incredibly salient even in modern times, and I think that that's really what makes the 2526 such a standout reference. We're really lucky to have two unbelievable examples of the 2526 in the office, and this is sort of what inspired us to do this video. And each one is significant, not only because of its museum level quality in terms of case hallmarks and condition, and also on the dial side, but also for two other reasons. We have a first series 2526. And the way that you can identify a first series 2526 is that there's sort of dimples on the dial because these indexes were set into the dial surface. Keep in mind that, as we said, this is a fragile dial. So even if a dial had made it all the way to perfection, and then they start drilling into the dial to inlay these indexes, you could just shatter a perfect dial. And so to get a first series 2526 in sterling condition is unbelievable. This particular example, according to the extract that we have, dates to 1955, so 2 years after the watch was released. And our other piece is significant for another reason. This one dates to 1960, I believe. And this piece is a double Swiss, it's called. And the reason that it's a double Swiss is because we have Swiss made at the 6 o'clock, and then below that we also have the words Swiss. And this is an incredibly rare iteration. We're incredibly proud to have these two museum-level examples of the 2526, which I think encapsulates everything that made mid-century Patek Philippe so enticing, but also packaged in a completely compelling modern watch package, which I think is really something that is incredibly special. So I don't know of another watch of this kind that's so wearable in a modern context, so elegant, and so historically significant. And that's why I think this watch might be the most important automatic winding watch that Patek Philippe ever made.